What's up guys, it's Chris here. Now, since we started this channel, we've always done everything transparently. That means I'll show you all of the profits, all of the losses, and all the rands and cents of every buy and sell that we do. So in today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through every single share, unit trust, and ETF that I've been buying this year from January to now, and we'll be going into detail about just how much profit or loss each of them has been making or losing, including dividends, to see if it's something you want to consider for your own portfolio. And at the end of the episode, I'll show my very best performing investment this year, and I'll be buying another 3 shares live and in real time on EasyEquities that I think are showing some real value right now for the rest of 2023 and beyond in order to keep building my portfolio. You don't want to miss this one, so let's get started. So what's up guys, as you can obviously see, we are in a different location today. It was my 32nd birthday last week, and not only did I get to spend it ticking over to 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing and thank you so much, but we also took a trip down to Delstrom, which is a mostly fishing and farming town in the Mpumalanga province. There was no signal, but we spent the weekend hiking through fields and streams, swimming in the freezing mountain pools, and nights by the fireplace keeping warm and watching the stars out in the countryside with our dog. And just because this is casual cash, I can tell you the cost for the weekend came to 2,380 Rand for the pet-friendly accommodation, 150 Rand for road tolls, and about 1 tank of fuel from there and back from Joburg. Okay, so let's get into things. First things first. Many times the markets are referred to as a roller coaster, and lately it's been living up to its name. If you look at the S&P 500 in the last month, it has been going up and then down and then up and again, and the main reason, same as it's been for the last 2 years, is the ebb and flow of the inflation figures and interest rates. So I'm sure you have been reeling from the red and green in your portfolios, but just remember that if you are investing for the long term, then you don't need to stress about fluctuations, and it's important to sometimes zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture of where you are and where you're going. South African markets, for example, have not had a great run the past 2 weeks, but the JSE 40 is still up slightly for the month and an 18% gain over the last year. So for me, I always try to keep steadily investing into my portfolio regularly, in the good and more especially in the bad, because usually that's where you get the best prices. So I can dollar cost average into the market and grow my portfolio and passive dividend income over the long term. So with that being said, I thought today would be a great time to take you through my investments for this year so far, and to show you from my own real world perspective in rands and cents where I've been making profits and where I've been making losses, because I think the best way to learn about investing is to talk about it all. Open all the doors and windows and get all the information so you can take from my wins and learn from my losses and overall become a more informed investor. So in today's episode, I'm going to open up my EasyEquities portfolio and show you how I track each and every single investment, not just the company, but each rand I put in and on what date and what results that has gotten me from January to now, including the dividends. Then at the end of the video, I'll show you what I'm investing in right now today, and we'll be making 3 investments right here, live and in real time. Guys, before we get started, I just want to mention that we have a Casual Cash Club on Patreon where I post all of my buys and sells each day they happen, so you can track them live and not have to wait for a 6-monthly video. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description. But let's get right to it. So we're going to start with some of the basic investments we've done, and then we'll end off with the ones that have been my best performing investments in the last 6 months. So let's get started with some local South African shares, and we might as well start with the banks. Now, banks are an interesting investment in recent times. You see, interest rates affect them hugely. When interest rates start to go up, it's great because it means they are making more money on the loans they give out. But if rates go too high, it can have a negative effect because it means people aren't able to pay those loans back. So the banks have an interesting climate this year, but for the most part, they've been doing quite well. So these are the investments we've made into Standard Bank this year. Now on the sheet you can see the name of the company at the top, then the date the purchase was made, then it has the share price at time of purchase, then how many shares I bought. That ZAC, if you don't know, stands for South African cents, and that is the rand gain I've made. So right at the top, that's 16,217 Rand and 14 cents, means I've made 162 Rand and 17 cents. Then you have the total share price gain in green or red by percentage, and lastly is the current value of the investments with the profit or loss included. So on Standard Bank, if we go down, you can see the 3 investments made in 2023 and that they are all in green. We made 3 investments in March when some global banks failed and banking shares were down. I usually invest regularly no matter what, but sometimes I'll top up shares when markets are down, and they've done pretty well since. So that's 0.35 and 9% profit between them. We've also made 236 Rand in dividends so far this year on all our Standard Bank shares in total. Then on to Nedbank, and here we see a similar story. We bought the same amounts on the same day, also when prices were down, and we can see a profit share of about 4%, 5% and over 10% for these Nedbank shares. We've also made 225 Rand in dividends as well. Then on to First Rand Bank, and again we see the same amounts invested on the same days, but FNB has been the best performing bank of the 3. You can see here we have an awesome 5%, 6% and even 14% profits over just 3 months, which is pretty incredible actually, and dividend income of 160 Rand, so that's 3 banks, 9 investments, all in profits. But the outlier here was Capitec. We actually sold our Capitec shares when they started dipping, which is very rare because I don't often sell shares at all, but their balance sheet is not well adapted to high interest rates and more of the customers will default on loans with less diversified income than other banks. Plus with a high PE ratio, they were more overvalued than most, and long term I thought there were some better value US companies that I came across with better dividends where we allocated the capital. That we'll get to, but they are still up 15% in the last 30 days, so perhaps there is still value. Next up is Sanlam. This company is up 17% in the last 6 months, and with 6% dividends it has shown some great value. We were able to catch some of that value with our investments, up from March by 0.5% and about 2 and 8% respectively. We've also brought in about 438 Rands in dividends this year, which has been great. Then we can look into our SA property shares. Now the property sector is a little simpler when it comes to interest rates. For banks, it is a double-edged sword. For property, it is just a sword. Because simply put, higher interest rates means higher payments on their bonds, and most property companies have around 30 to 50% of their value in loans. So although typically 80% of their debt is hedged against interest rate changes, their expenses will still go up. So in turn, prices are going down this year, but why I have been buying them is because that means that dividends have been going way up, and in time interest rates will come down as inflation eases. So buying shares now, if you are going to hold them for a few years at least, might bring some good share value and dividends. So Satrix Property ETF, I only invested small amounts of 345 Rand and 177 Rand, which was simply dividends in my tax-free savings account that I reinvested. But those are down 8% and 5%, which is a 42 Rand loss, but also we've made 266 Rand in dividends this year. Now keep in mind that the dividends I mention are on the full shareholding that I have of each, not just the new additions this year. So that is just to give some perspective of these shares as a whole, but on a total shareholding of 6,700 Rand, that's a bit over 8% it pays in dividends. But now we go on to StoreAge, which is a property company that specializes in storage units. Now you can see here that all the share prices are down at the moment, going all the way back to 2019 when I first bought them. And again, that is because property shares are feeling the pain of the high interest rates. But I'll continue to buy because the dividends are really great at 9.5%, and when interest rates lower, I think they will do well. For perspective, I'm 1,800 Rand down on the company, but I've made 3,741 Rand in dividends during that time, and 775 Rand so far this year. Okay, next up onto the UK portfolio. Starting off, we have the Eurostoxx 50 index fund, which is the 50 largest companies in the Eurozone area. We just started investing in this and we've seen one investment down and the other 3 are up for an overall profit. But as with most index funds, you invest in these for the long term, so 2 months is a very short time so far, but we'll keep adding. Next is the FTSE 100, which is the 100 largest companies in the UK. Again, this is also just 2 months, but these are down based on the latest inflation data. But for our other FTSE 100 that we've been investing in for 2 years, it's doing extremely well. That we'll get to that later. Then we have Lloyds Bank. This has at times been our best performing share, but again, interest rate changes have been affecting retail banks recently to where our 22 investments are up, but 23 investments are down. We've made 190 Rand dividends this year, but with dividends at 5.5% and current prices down, I might look to add some here, but we'll see. Now we have HSBC, a finance company in the UK. This is one of the best performing shares in our portfolio. As you can see, our 2022 investment is up by 32%, but even our 2023 investments are all up as much as 10, 11, and even 14% over the last 3 months. Dividends are at 4.2%, which is nice, and we've made 107 Rand income from them this year. Then I need to show you SSE. Now this is a renewable energy producer similar to our Eskom, except it actually works and they produce their energy by solar, wind, hydro and renewable sources. Since the war in Ukraine, energy independence in UK and Europe has been incredibly important, so we've seen great share price growth in 2022, and even our tiny investment a few days ago is up 1%. That was just some spare dividends I needed to put somewhere. We've made 380 Rand dividends this year from them as well. And then to the last section, which is our USA portfolio, and included in it is the best performing share that we have invested in this year. Now guys, please keep in mind that if you've been on this channel before, this is not our whole portfolio. I'm just showing the companies that we've been investing in this year. We've got other videos on the channel with the full portfolio if you want to check it out. But starting off, we have two income ETFs, which are the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income and the Global X Nasdaq 100 Covered Call ETF. You can see that both of these have been performing well, with all of the 2023 investments being in profit and pretty much all investments ever in a profit, except that little guy. But really happy with these, and even though the investment amount is small, we've made about 600 Rand in dividends in the 6 months together. Next, we have the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, and you can see two of them from the beginning of the year are down by 3 and 2%. Then the three latest are up by 0.5% and also about 2 and 3%. This is a dividend focused ETF, and it's definitely one we're going to build up over time with exposure to top US equities and about 3.7% dividends, which for the USA is nice. It's small for now but has paid about 90 Rand so far. Then we have Simon Property Group. Similar to Schwab, the two earlier in the year are down by 5 and 4%, and the three more recent are up by roughly 5, 6 and 7%. Thanks to our first investment in 2022, it's in a nice profit. We have also just started investing in Realty Income, which is a property company that pays you over 5% dividends and pays you monthly to add to our passive income. Its long-term share price growth has been quite incredible, but we only started investing in the last couple of weeks, so we'll see how it does longer term. Okay guys, and here it is, what you have been waiting for, our absolute top highest performing share that we have purchased in 2023. Now, as you know, we have 3 index funds that we buy every single month and put 100 Rand into each. Now, the Satrix 40 in South Africa has been a mixed bag, but mostly down this year because of the economy and load shedding. Then the FTSE 100 in the UK, like I mentioned earlier, has done extremely well with pretty much all green. But the absolute highest growing investment that I have made this year out of all of them was the Core Shares S&P 500 in the USA, which is an ETF of the 500 biggest companies in America that is in absolutely all green, and the single highest investment was from March with 16.17%. And amazingly, that is only a 3-month return. The 1-year return from June 2022 is at 37% growth. And that is also why I started investing in another S&P 500 in my dollar account this year, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 or VOO, which is also all the way up, and that I'll continue to add to over the years and decades. And so those results right there are why lately I have been investing more into the USA stock market, which is showing not only some nice value, but some really great growth over the last year. So the 3 shares that I'm going to be buying in real time here today are firstly the Schwab US Dividend ETF. This ETF has exposure to a lot of great US companies that will grow the share values, and as the name suggests, some nice long-term dividend growth. So we invested $55 here. The second is Realty Income. I've just started investing in this company and we have a full video on it if you want. But if you look at the graph, you can see that the share price and dividend growth should be really great over the next few decades, and I'm looking forward to adding much more to it over time. We invested $100 here, but we should be adding another $170 over time. I just want to spread out the investments a bit over time. And lastly, as you might have guessed, our final investment was in the Vanguard S&P 500 or VOO, which was our best performing share. By investing in dollars, I can also gain from any currency growth to the rand, and there are very few investments that can beat its return over time, and many people see it as a staple in your portfolio, so I invested another $28 here, and I'll continue to add and grow over time. And guys, just remember, if you do want to see all my share purchases and sales live and when they happen, you're welcome to check out the Casual Cash Club on Patreon, and the link is in the description below. You'll also get a bunch of helpful info, tips and tricks and spreadsheets to track your investing journey, and you get access to all of that immediately when you sign up for just $3, which according to Woolworths is the cost of 3 slices of ham. Really, Woolworths, get your stuff together. But guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like on the video below if you did, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more. And I will see you next time, as always, on Casual Cash. Cheers.